All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Mary Ann Hansen, if you don't know who I am, from the Portage Chamber of Commerce, and thanks for everybody for being here tonight. The Chamber is really pleased to be able to host our forum this evening. It gives you an opportunity as the community to hear directly from the candidates that are running for mayor for the city of Portage. I want to give a special thank you to our candidates here, Mr. Rick Dodd and Mr. Matthew Fiene, for being here tonight, and also for your willingness to serve our community. We certainly appreciate that. Thanks to the Portage Center for the Arts for their gratitude for hosting us tonight, and to all of you here in the audience, and especially all those people too that will be listening to us on our digital channels later on. Just so you know, we are recording the forum this evening. We will post a link so that you can watch it through our YouTube page. If I get it done tonight, we'll do it tonight. Otherwise, you might see it tomorrow morning. We'll give it a whirl. So leading up to this forum, we want to just say thanks to the community for their engagement in this process. We actually asked for input from the residents to share questions that matter the most to them. We received many thoughtful submissions, and from those, the questions were narrowed down to the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight. The forum is really an opportunity for you to hear directly from the candidates. This is not a debate. It will be a chance for each candidate to share their perspectives and their priorities that they see for the city of Portage. There will be no live audience questions tonight. I do encourage you to listen carefully and to learn about each of the candidates' approach to their leadership for the city of Portage. So here's an overview of how the evening will go. Each candidate will begin with an opening statement for 2 minutes. We will then move into a moderated discussion where the candidates will respond to a series of prepared questions that we have for them. At the end, each candidate will then have time for a closing statement. And our goal is to ensure that we have a respectful and informative discussion that helps voters make an informed decision tonight. We ask that everyone remains courteous and respectful to the candidates throughout the evening. So with that being said, let's begin. We're going to start with our opening statements, and we have decided that we will start in an alphabetical order for opening statements. So Mr. Dodd will get a chance to go first, but then when we get to our closing statements, Mr. Fiene will have that opportunity to go first. So again, we start with 2 minutes for each candidate. Mr. Dodd, the floor is yours.
Okay, as my sign says, I'm Rick Dodd, and my wife and I have been residents of Portage since 1965. We both graduated from Portage High School, as did our 2 children. My wife and daughter are both educators and have dedicated over 4 years of their lives to their alma mater. Our unwavering commitment to our community and schools has been a driving force behind our personal and professional growth. My career as a medical engineer taught me the importance of paying close attention to details, listening attentively, and thoroughly considering all possibilities. This personal and professional growth has equipped me with the tools necessary to do community service. I served as an alderperson for 14 years and a mayor for 6 years, and you will see in some of my answers later on, I plan to establish a transparent administration with scheduled sessions for citizens to voice their opinions and concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Fiene.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Fiene. I'm 29 years old and I teach history and government at Ryle High School. I'm also an Eagle Scout and a city councilman for the 1st District. One of the things that I've always done my whole life is try to make everybody's lives better. I teach and I want to look towards the future and make not only my students' lives, but their parents and everyone else around them better. And so I want to bring that same attitude to the city of Portage because I believe that forward-looking, everything as an optimist will improve. I know that we might not be where we want to be right now, but with the right people helping each other out and providing a great community, we can do better in the future than we have currently done. And as an Eagle Scout, I was always told, leave a campsite better than when you found it. I also believe that applies to city government too. We should be in a better place after we leave office than when we get in there. And that's the attitude I'll bring to the mayor's office. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with our questions now. Mr. Fiene, this one's going to go to you. Why do you want to be the mayor for the city of Portage?
So my whole life I've been a planner, and I've thought long term how best we can make not only my life, my family's life, and my friends' lives, but everyone's lives better. When I was an Eagle Scout, my project was building a disc golf course at Yellow Banks Park in Weston. When I help students plan their lives, help them apply and graduate college, my whole idea is to be forward-looking. And I know as a community, there are many struggles that we have, roads and housing. And I want to tell my future children that I did everything I could so that they will have a better life than I did. When I first was encouraged to run, I thought about what are some big issues. And the one that my wife and I personally experienced was the lack of affordable and quality housing. And in order to move forward, we need to expand our housing and infrastructure opportunities. And we need a mayor who will be focused on the future long-term by adding quality housing, which will bring in new businesses and also help us financially afford to update our infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Same question, I can repeat it. Why do you want to be the mayor for the city of Portage?
Well, this is a pretty straightforward question for me to answer because first and foremost, my major priority is to serve the citizens of this great city. And by doing that, I plan to next aim to expand the new housing development by establishing a housing commission and improve our infrastructure at a pace that we can afford. Ultimately, our goal is to create a fantastic place for people to live, work, and enjoy themselves.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Dodd, this will be back to you then. What do you feel is the top issue facing Portage now, and how will you address it if you become the next mayor?
Well, the one word that probably is battered around the most is housing. And we're headed in the right direction with the North Side subdivision. This is not something that we're going to fix overnight. The city needs to continue to work with the current developers to ensure that their plans are fulfilled. Ultimately, this should free up some stock in the rest of the city that will help increase affordable housing and keep new businesses coming into the city.
Thank you. Mr. Fiene, I'll repeat the question. What do you feel is the top issue facing Portage now, and how will you address it if you become the next mayor?
I believe the biggest issue facing Portage right now is the lack of quality housing. As a young person, I know how hard it is to find suitable housing. I've lived it, and I really want to provide more for families so that they can move here. If we don't have anything, no one will come here. We have to provide them something. Okay, so as mayor, one of the things I want to do is work with our developers to promote our zero lot line ordinance, which will allow more duplexes, townhomes, or row houses, as well as work with the Plan Commission to identify places in the city that could be upzoned so that we can go from maybe a single family to maybe a duplex or a townhome, and identify future areas of growth, which, as Mr. Dodd said, is going to be primarily on the north side of town, continue that development forward.
Thank you. Back to you though, Mr. Fiene, on this next question. If you are elected mayor, what do you plan to accomplish in your first 90 days?
So the next mayor is going to have a lot of really pressing matters. The biggest thing is we're going to have several key appointments that are going to make. Dale Pedalinsic, who is the District 8 Alderman, he resigned. If I become mayor, the District 1 Alderman position is going to be open. And all of these are small potatoes compared to the city administrator. We will need to hire a new city administrator, and towards the end of the year, our economic development director, Steve Sobiek, is going to be retiring as well. So my plan for the first 90 days is to ensure that we have the right people in the right positions. So filling the District 1 and District 8 aldermanic positions, start narrowing down our list of replacement city administrators so that we can get the right person hitting the ground running right away. And finally, I want to make sure that all of our city commissions and our committees are stocked with the right people so that they can start the businesses as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Mr. Dodd, again, the question is, if elected, what do you plan to accomplish in your first 90 days?
Yeah, the first 90 days may determine the foundation of Portage again. There are several ad hoc committees that I would like to create. One is a housing commission that I already mentioned. This would ensure that we have sufficient residential building space with appropriate lot sizes to accommodate all sizes and variety of construction. Another one is one that I like to call beautification of Portage. It would have a broad scope from help on rehabbing existing housing stock to making sure that our community entrances are the best they can look. And another committee is between the city and the educational partners to ensure that we are in lockstep moving forward with development of the new schools and with our community as a whole.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to the next question. Mr. Dodd, this one will go back to you. We all know road repairs are expensive and everybody wants their road repaired today. What steps will you take to improve roads and the overall infrastructure within the budgets being so limited at this time by the city?
Well, this is a difficult question to answer as well as extremely important because it takes time to fix the roads. I'm not going to sit here and say that we can fix every road in Portage in the next 3 years because we all know that's not realistic and didn't happen in the past. We have a municipal services group committee that uses a rating program to evaluate all the streets in the city of Portage and sets a priority for the following years. But we also must need to evaluate what's underneath the surface, and that is the water and sewer. Without evaluation, we may be wasting taxpayer dollars by only resurfacing the streets only to have them redone at a later date when the sewer and water needs to be replaced. We have short-term fixes that we're using. We use the wheel tax right now to maintain those streets that can be just maintained with crack sealing and not really overlaid, but the sealant for everybody calls it the stone sealant. It's tar and stones to seal the surface in order to prolong the life of those streets that warrant it. And not every street warrants it. Some streets are way too far gone to an attempt to do that. So I would continue to work with our municipal services department to determine which ones are left.
Thank you, Mr. Fiene. I'll repeat the question again. Road repairs are expensive and everybody wants their road repaired today. What steps will you take to improve roads and the overall infrastructure with budgets being so limited at this time by the city?
Yeah, as Mr. Dodd said, this is a difficult challenge. And the way I see it, there's two different parts to this. So the first is ensuring that as a community we can grow, because right now our property taxes are pretty high and budgets are strained. If we grow and there's more growth in businesses in town, that will provide us more property tax revenue to do this. And that's step one. Okay, the second part is ensuring that we get funding outside of our city budget, so applying for grants and road repairs. Now, one of the things is there are certain companies like MSA that help us write these grants to get these road proposals, and that's going to be a really important way that we can get some of this money. Now, as to the federal government, right now things are a little shaky, but statewide, there's a lot of grants available that I plan to pursue. Now, as to which specific roads are targeted, because everybody wants their road changed, our hands are a little bit tied in that for a couple of reasons. The first being that there's a lot of roads that are struggling, but the second one is that the state is going to be doing some major projects. Highway 51 downtown this year, that's going to be a massive undertaking, replacing the utility as well as the state coming in and renovating 51. And then in a couple of years, we're going to have Highway 33 as well. And the state kind of dictates to us, hey, being we're ripping all this up, you guys should do that now, because if 5 years from now, you're going to rip that all up, that's on your dime, right? So it goes with long-term planning. We do need to look at where the state is going to be doing and ensuring that we make all of our needed repairs when they do. Now after that, the most important street I think that we can target first, if the funding is available, is Prospect. That would be one of the first that I would look at doing.
Well, Mr. Fiene, you answered my follow-up one, which was what specific roads would you target for your repairs in the next term? Mr. Dodd, I'll put that out to you. Do you have any specific roads that you would plan to target?
Yeah, there are several streets that come to mind. But as I mentioned earlier, we need to consider not only the street surface, but also the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure. The cost of rebuilding a half mile of road, and there's over 50 miles of road in the city of Portage, is $1.25 million with infrastructure. And so really to answer the question of which streets I would select, I would look at Prospect, East Pleasant, Northridge, and a portion of Silver Lake Drive, just to name a few. But again, I would put this back on the Municipal Services Committee, as they have the experts to know and the rating of what the streets should be replaced and the order we should replace them.
Mr. Fiene, I want to give you ample time. Do you have any other streets that you want to share?
Yeah, that will obviously depend on funding, but Prospect is definitely a big one. Parts of East Edgewater, East Pleasant, parts of Adams, those all are going to need to be done. Now, hopefully the funding's all there for them, because the big answer is everything, but we do have a limited budget. I would say Prospect, East Edgewater, East Pleasant, and Adams are the top priorities.
Okay, moving on to our next question. Mr. Fiene, this one starts with you. Do you feel there can be or should be stricter ordinances or regulations to ask residents and business owners to clean up their properties? And if so, how will you make those changes to the current regulations?
So some of this has to do with enforcement. We did lose a community service officer, and our CSOs generally are the ones who go around and they are the ones who cite. So we did lose a community service officer last budget with our budgetary process. And when you don't have full-time building inspectors and you have reduced CSOs that are continuously monitoring and maintaining this, then you can start to see this problem. Now, I think working with property owners in a proactive manner is probably better than ticketing or citing, right? You don't want to be too over punitive. So I would ideally have CSOs or building inspectors send a letter or some sort of notice letting them know that it's been identified as a problem, and then going from there, right? If someone's going to refuse to take action, that's where enforcement could take place. But I also think that we can do a little bit better job of advertising certain situations where people can help clean up their properties. We do have a cleanup Portage weekend coming up later this spring that it can encourage people to get rid of old or broken items that they no longer need or want in their property. So I think being kind and notifying people of potential problems is probably the first way to go, but we do have an ordinance that does allow us to act if somebody does have problems where they have a rundown or blighted property. So enforcement would come after the notifications to that. But I would try to work with our community service officers to identify and reach out to those people.
Thank you. Mr. Dodd, I'll repeat the question again for you. Do you feel there can be or should be stricter ordinances or regulations to ask residents and business owners to clean up properties? If so, how will you make changes to the current city regulations?
Well, the ordinances right now are as strict as state regulations allow them to be. Until there is a threat to public safety to either citizens or the residents, there's not a whole lot of enforcement that we can do. The city does have a community block grant development program that allows residential property and the citizens to borrow money at a 0% interest and repay it back when the property sells. So I think there isn't a whole lot of changes that I would propose to the current city ordinances.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dodd, this one will come back to you. Do you have an initiative you want to implement to enhance the quality of life for Portage residents? Maybe bringing more outdoor or indoor recreational activities, more parks, more activities for the arts?
Well, we should always be looking for additional opportunities for quality of life. Cutting back on the parks is not an answer. We need to keep improving our park system as well as maintaining them. Our non-motorized transportation trails are great. We have a great Chamber of Commerce that has always had activities for all ages. Our Park and Rec department has excellent programs for children and young adults. We have a Boys and Girls Club that provides after-school place for children to go. And the Portage Area Community Theater, which we're sitting in tonight, offers great theatrical opportunities for everyone. We have a great arrangement with the school district for their use of their facilities when they're available, and we need to bring back some citywide celebrations and have citizens attend these as well as advertise them to bring in visitors to our great city.
Mr. Fiene, I'll repeat the question for you. Do you have an initiative you want to implement to enhance the quality of life for Portage residents? Bring more outdoor or indoor recreational activities, more parks, or more activities for the arts?
I think that a lot of it has to do with like promoting our history and marketing ourselves, especially because we're so close to Wisconsin Dells, and that gets a lot of tourism. I think people sometimes kind of forget about us. There are some grants available that I would, if I can work with the Ice Age Trail Lines, I would like to connect the Ice Age Trail segments because I think that would be a huge draw. The Ice Age Trail is a very prestigious and important network that gets a lot of attention. There's also some festivals and activities I think might be worth a shot. Up in Wausau, they do a hot air balloon festival at their airport, and they bring in food trucks and they get a chalk fest going so that you can have artists come and do chalk art. You can see, especially at night when they light up all their hot air balloons, it's really something that's really great for kids. So I think that is probably worth a shot as well. And I'd like to work more with the Center for the Arts to sponsor things, like art festivals, art in the park, and things like that as well. So I'm open to a lot of new ideas, but I do think that we can market and promote our city, especially because we're so close to Wisconsin Dells. We can draw some of those people who might want to see something more historic long term.
Thank you. Mr. Fiene, this question will go back to you now. What steps would you take to ensure that the city's budget is balanced and taxpayer dollars are spent responsibly while still investing in critical community needs?
So the way I look at this question from a finance perspective is called getting what's known as return on investment, or ROI. And this simply asks, are we going to get more out of this at the end than we put in? If something costs us $50,000, but we get $200,000 for spending that, then that's a win for taxpayers. So applying for grants and hiring agencies to help us do that, it would be a great example of something that has a lot of return on investment. Also, expanding maintenance to try to protect things that we have, because maintenance is better than starting from scratch. So expanding maintenance is another important thing, because if you don't plan things with care, you're going to run into problems. As Mr. Dodd had said, you don't want to rip up a road that you just repaved 5 years ago, right? So a lot of that has to do with what your planning is going to look like in the future, right? So having a long-term goal and what that plan is going to look like 5, 10, 15 years from now is crucial to avoiding repeated maintenance and ripping up things that you just redid. So I think it starts with looking at where's your return on investment and what is your plan for the future. What is that going to look like 10, 15 years from now?
Mr. Dodd, to you, I'll repeat the question. What steps would you take to ensure that the city's budget is balanced and taxpayer dollars are spent responsibly while still investing in critical community needs?
Well, the budget always has to be balanced. Municipal budgets must be balanced annually by state statutes. But this is a tricky question because it's always been challenging, but establishing a guideline before the budget process even commences simplifies departmental requirements and ensures that preservation of critical resources are maintained. We also have, as I pointed out, a program to evaluate all the streets within the city of Portage. We also have a city master plan that gets revised every 15 to 20 years that tells us where we're going to expand, what we want to do, and what the resources are. And it's basically land use requirements that we should be following. So it's a multifaceted answer that is not as simple as just saying we can balance the budget. We get that out. So again, we have the tools. We have a lot of the tools at hand already. We just need to use them properly.
All right, Mr. Dodd, this question will go back to you. How will you engage with the public to listen to community input and to include this input in your term as the mayor as you lead Portage if you were elected?
Well, proactively engaging with the public is no longer a solitary media solution. One way to do this, and it's an effective way that I used to have, is organizing quarterly listening sessions, or town halls as they're currently called. These platforms provide the opportunity for citizens both to ask questions and get answers. And that's the major difference between what I propose and the public comment sessions that are at the common council meetings. Another way is to engage with the public is to revive the semi-annual newsletters. This has been cut out for quite a while. Many citizens expressed interest in that initiative as they found the newsletters to be highly valuable and informative. Considering my retirement, I'm also committed to ensuring that I'm always available to assist citizens either through email, phone, or in person during regular city hall hours.
Thank you, Mr. Fiene. This will be to you then. I'll repeat the question. How will you engage with the public to listen to community input and include this input in your term as mayor as you lead Portage if you are elected as mayor?
So I'm a big believer, especially like being a teacher, that you got to meet people where they're at. Because whether that be on social media or sending newsletters or whatever, you have to meet people where they're at, right? And so one of the things is I would like to use social media because, I mean, as difficult as it is, that's where people are. So I would definitely use social media to connect. I also wouldn't mind having some Q&A sessions, right? Because where we might disagree on something, if you can at least understand the thought process that's going into why that decision was made, then you can look at, okay, I might disagree, but I get it, right? So I would probably try to have some Q&A sessions so I can try to explain like the problems, get on social media and send out, you know, an electronic newsletter or something like that so that people can log on and read that. And I always welcome suggestions from community members, right? My phone or email will always be open, right? If someone wants to make this community better, I'm always willing to listen, right? I don't know everything. I'm not going to tell you I know everything. So sometimes you get a member of the community that wants to step up and say, hey, I think we should be doing this. And if it's a good idea and it's going to save us taxpayer money, I'm all for it, right? So I'm very open to feedback, and I always plan on being out and about in town at events like Taste of Portage and whatnot, so that if you see me, you can introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I have a thought for you to go over. So I'm a very approachable person. I promise you I'm not scary. I'm like the least scary person there is. So if you see me out and about in town, just introduce yourself. I'm always receptive to feedback or suggestions.
Thank you. Mr. Fiene, this will go back to you then. Can you talk about how you plan to address the higher property taxes that affect our residents and business owners now?
So the biggest issue with property tax right now is we don't have like the tax base that a larger city would have, right? So we can, first thing, encourage housing growth in this community, which will then impact business growth. So the more people that live here that are paying into the budget, the less each individual person has to pay. If you look at how much Baraboo or Columbus has grown versus us, we've kind of stagnated a little bit. Good news is we are turning the corner. These new developments the past few years are really sending us in the right direction. And many people here have heard me, some of you guys at your doors have heard me tell you this, that I believe growth encourages growth. What I mean by that is if we add more housing and more people move in, that's going to create more demand for shops, restaurants, and services. And then businesses see that opportunity, they come here, and then that makes the city more attractive to more people to come here. And it's like a snowball rolling down a hill, right? So this increase in activity will also raise people's property values, which will encourage homeowners and developers to flip houses or improve their lots and invest in new projects, right? So that's what I mean when I say growth encourages growth. But if we turn down new housing developments or new housing starts, it's going to be harder to attract businesses because they're not going to see in the future a larger tax base or a larger population that will be future customers for them. So that's where I stand on that issue.
Mr. Dodd, back to you. Can you talk about how to address the higher property taxes that affect our residents and business owners now?
Yeah, I think the majority of the higher property tax right now was put there by referendum to fund the EMS program. I don't disagree with that, But there was a referendum that was in February of last year, sorry. And approximately 30% of the people, 1,496 people exactly, of the citizens voted in the November election, voted in the February 24th election to decide the EMS funding. Now that may not seem like a lot, but that's 70% of the people didn't care enough to get out and vote. We do have an approach that we've used in the past to keep our borrowing in check. However, for significant projects like a $17 million city garage, I would suggest holding a referendum. While it's not a mandate, it would provide citizens with another opportunity to express their input and get their approval. We also will not see any income from our north side residential housing development for probably another 20 years, as it's in a TID district, and it expires in 24 years, but it's probably going to be about 18 to 20 years before we start even seeing any taxes come off of that. So we need to continue that, but it's not going to be an overnight solution on how to fix our budgetary problems.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question. Mr. Dodd, this one goes back to you. Outdoor recreation adds to our economy here in Portage and is one way we draw tourists and residents to our area. ATV, UTV riding is one of those. What are your feelings about opening Portage city streets to ATV, UTV traffic?
Well, Portage's main access is really regulated by federal and state requirements. However, most of the streets are not regulated by them. So if the majority of citizens, again, want them to be accessible to ATV traffic, we can find a way to make that happen. We made it happen back in the early 2000s when the electric vehicles came in and they didn't have a speed of about 35 miles an hour. We had specific routes that they could follow and certain highways that they were not allowed to travel on.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for you, Mr. Fiene. Outdoor recreation adds to our economy in Portage and is one way we draw tourists and more residents to our area. ATV, UTV riding is one of those. What are your feelings about opening Portage city streets to ATV, UTV traffic?
I don't have any issue with this if it can be done safely. So I hunt up north, up in Rusk County. I also spend a lot of time at friends' cabins up in Mercer, Tomahawk, that area. And everything up there is ATV. Everything. City streets, village streets, town roads, county roads. So a lot of the concerns that people have about ATVs or UTVs, things like they don't have seatbelts. ATVs don't. Motorcycles don't either, right? Some people are concerned that they're loud. Motorcycles are either, right? So I'm open to having ATV routes. I've driven all over the place. The only potential concern that I have, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but drunk driving, if you get pulled over in a car and you get cited for drunk driving, that's a DOT violation. If you drunk drive on an ATV, that's a DNR violation. They're not the same. So you could get your license pulled for drunk driving and still go and drive an ATV because those are separate violations. Now, if our ordinance can say if you've lost your vote for DWI, if we write an ordinance that says that, or that you're 16, you need to have a valid license, I'm totally on board with this because especially when you think of residents from, Partyville or whatever, if they want to take county roads all over the place and can get here, I'm okay with that. So we just need to figure out a way that it can be done safely, and if it can be done safely, I'm all on board with that.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to our next question, Mr. Fiene, this one goes back to you. The mayor oftentimes gets blamed for what takes place in the city's economy, or can also get the credit as well. What do you see as the mayor's role for the city of Portage?
So the biggest thing that the mayor can do is ensure good long-term planning, and so that you can set the foundation for success. As Mr. Dodd said, it doesn't happen overnight, right? There's nothing that's shovel ready. You have to plan things long time in advance. So as mayor, one of the things you need to do is you need to ensure you have the right people, good city administrator, good city staff. So you need to have the right people doing the right things in the right positions so that the city is set up for success. It also means having a long-term vision for what is the city going to look like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So if you have a long-term vision where you include the city council, businesses, developers, community members that can anticipate what future needs are going to be, and you can start planning, you can make the changes necessary today that set everything up for success tomorrow. So to recap that, my big focus as a mayor is setting the long-term goals and long-term foundation today so that we will be successful tomorrow. That's the job that the mayor should have.
Mr. Dodd, I'll repeat the question. The mayor often gets blamed for what takes place in the city's economy, or can also take the credit as well. What do you see as the mayor's role for the city of Portage?
Well, the mayor serves as the equivalent of a CEO in the private sector. The mayor provides the guidance on all aspects of the city initiatives, including budget constraints, residential and commercial development, and also manufacturing. I also believe that the mayor's decisions are also like a sports referee. 50% of the people are always going to be mad at you when you come up with it. There's no universally liked decisions, but all decisions that get made are done in the best interest of the city. And we have a lot of the stuff already that Mr. Fiene mentioned. We have a comprehensive plan, master plan for the city. We have a comprehensive road plan for the city. We know pretty much what's coming and what's going. We also have the, for lack of anything better, the bad issues of living between two rivers and swampland in between. So there isn't a whole lot of growth for the city of Portage without annexing township property. And that in the past has not gone well for the city. We are currently moving to the north, which is the best place for the city to move because it's the best land that surrounds the city. So at this point, we may have to go back and redo our city master plan to include that portion of the township or the development at a near date in the future.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question, Mr. Dodd. This one goes back to you. What are the most common issues that voters are bringing up to you during your campaign, and how would you address these?
Well, many of the citizens that I talk to want stability, common sense, and lots of communications. It all starts with the top and flows down. And those that I talk to would like some experience in governmental know-how. I'll put it that way. They do not believe that there's a lot of this been happening in the past. These are part of who I am and what I have done in the past. And again, communication cannot be overstressed. You need to communicate with the people. There's multiple media sources that we can use, but if we don't communicate with the people, they just get angry with us. This is not just a mayor issue. This goes back to Common Council and the administrators and the administration of the city. We can't have administrators that don't get along well with citizens. So we all need to be able to do this, and the old saying is, it takes a village to build anything. We need to keep these people going, and we need to keep our citizens happy the best that we can.
Mr. Fiene, I'll repeat the question. What are the most common issues that voters are bringing up to you during your campaign, and how would you address these?
So I've knocked on over 535 doors, some of yours included, and the number one thing that I hear from everybody is property taxes. My property taxes went up almost $1,400, almost 30%, and it sounds like, compared to what other people have said, I might have been lucky. I've heard some people that have had closer to 50%, right? And so property taxes is the number one thing that I have heard, right? Now, Mr. Dodd had brought up the EMS referendum that we passed last year. That was a contributing factor. So was the $53 million school referendum. Now, the school, which is a separate government entity from the city, the school does get a certain amount of state aid per student. And if there aren't any students, their costs go up and they have to keep going to more and more referendums. So the biggest thing as a city that we can do is build more housing so they get more students, which means more state aid for them, so they have to get less and less referendums. When it comes to housing, Mr. Dodd also mentioned that he wanted to bring back a housing commission. We actually had one 3 years ago. The city commissioned a study. It basically said we need everything. We need more apartments, we need more single family homes, we need more duplexes, we need to build housing. And I've heard several people say that if property taxes continue to go up, that they might have to sell their home and leave, which I don't think that's acceptable, so that can't happen, right? We need to utilize our strategic location on multiple state highways and railroads to promote ourselves to businesses. Come here, open up in Portage. We need to get a tax base. There's talk about a new intermodal train station, which all the railroads around us, that would be huge for this community. Amtrak, we can sell and promote our history and get more tourism from Amtrak. That's expanded another line as well. So it starts with investment in housing and business growth. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question. Mr. Fiene, this one will go to you. How do you view our competitive standing as a city, specifically compared us to other cities regarding taxes or regulations? As a mayor, how do you see improving our competitiveness?
So when I've Googled and I've looked at tax parcel history in the Sauk City, Baraboo's and whatnot, our property actually are a little bit higher than theirs. They also are going to referendums as well, but ours are a little bit higher. So part of the difference can be explained by the fact that cities like Baraboo, they have more amenities. They have a Menards, they have Blaine's Farm and Fleets, they have Circus World. They have just more of a tax base than we do. Sauk City is a little bit closer to Madison, so there's a lot more demand for housing there. So some of it's proximity, some of it's, Devil's Lake State Park is there, right? So it's more developable in Sauk City and Baraboo because we are confined by the river and some swamps in our city. Most of the first ward is a floodplain, so we do have some issues in terms of developing along the waterfront. In terms of improving our competitiveness, we have to promote our history, promote our trails, and get businesses in the industrial park. That also means that we have a mayor and city council that would be supportive of new growth. There are some people that don't want to see new growth. They want to keep Portage small, and we just can't afford to do that. We aren't in a position where we shut down development projects or businesses that want to come here. We have to get creative and we have to work for them. I've said it a million times, I probably sound like a broken record, but we need to build more housing. In terms of choosing location, businesses look at the following things. They look at growth rate, traffic counts, median household income, and population. Building housing will increase 3 of those 4. If businesses see that a city's declining in population and it's declining in median household income, they're not going to move here. If you are able to bring in more people that have higher incomes, maybe luxury apartments, maybe larger homes, you can do that. And lastly, I think we can send a message that, hey, you want to come here for outdoors activities? We have a brand new kayak launch on the Fox River, and you can have the Wisconsin River Levee Trail and expand the Ice Age Trail. That can also serve as a draw for all of us.
Mr. Dodd, back to you. I'll repeat the question. How do you view our competitive standing as a city, specifically compared to other cities regarding taxes or regulations? As mayor, how do you see improving our competitiveness?
Well, I firmly believe that there's always room for improvement. We will always be compared with our neighboring cities. And to address this, we need to make significant strides by implementing basic yet effective measures, such as constructing a more robust housing stock, beautifying our town where we can, and maximizing the value of the tax dollars that we collect to do the most that we can to make our city a better place. Additionally, we must enhance our collaboration with our educational institutions and our medical community. I'm particularly keen on initiating these 2 initiatives, which is a new ad hoc committee with our Education Commission and the Housing Authority Committee. Once those are in there, they will stay there until we get this done. Without housing, without school, and without a medical community, we're gonna be a non-existent city in the near future. So we have to take care of some of the basic stuff first. As far as trying to get some other stuff, Matt mentioned Menards. They are one of the biggest culprits in not paying their taxes to what they want it to be. They've reduced stuff as what's called a black hole or a black store, where they think they should be assessed at the value of an empty building. And it's just not the right way to go about it. So in a way, we're probably better off without having some of these, because we've built a lot of hometown, homegrown businesses that keep on thriving.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next question, and Mr. Dodd, this one starts with you. With housing, topics include affordability and availability. These are concerns for residents that we have heard. What specific initiatives would you plan to implement to ensure that we have diverse options for housing here in Portage?
Well, 4 years ago, we initiated the Rolling Prairie subdivision project and specifically requested for them a range of sizes of building lots. These smaller lots will be introduced on the second phase of development, which is currently under development and should open this summer. This should have the ability to bring more affordable houses, as the lot sizes are going to be considerably smaller and will bring in a neighborhood type construction. I also talked to the developers about expanding, and they said they've already got plans for 3 more phases of development on the north side, which will include some estate lots, which will be the larger lots for bigger homes, and those that doctors and some of the more affluent people would like to have. So the biggest thing that I think we need to do is continue what we're doing. It's not an overnight process to get this done, but I think by doing this and building those, we'll open up some of the more affordable houses in the center part of the city, and thus have a better sustainable building sites and building locations and growth.
Mr. Fiene, we'll go back to you and I'll repeat the question again for you. With housing, topics include affordability and availability. These are concerns for residents that we have heard. What specific initiatives would you plan to implement to ensure we have diverse options for housing here in Portage?
So 4 years ago, the city commissioned a housing study to outline like what sort of housing we need, what our goals should be. And the report basically said that we don't have enough housing at any level. We don't have enough luxury housing, we don't have enough workforce housing, we don't have enough low-income housing. We need housing of all types, okay? So that's the first thing. In fact, the city of Portage relies on commuters to fill our jobs because there aren't enough houses or apartments here. So we still have much more work to do in that regard. I personally know how difficult the housing shortage is because my wife and I lived it. So in terms of working with developers, I think we can promote our zero lot line ordinance more and expand that to include townhouses and row houses, so that you can have fourplexes, duplexes that would probably be maybe suitable for seniors who are looking to downsize or married couples. Because if you have 2 senior citizens living in a 5-bedroom house, would they really want a 2-bedroom house? Then the family can't buy that 5-bedroom, right? So that they can downsize. And so we need some of those smaller lot sizes like Mr. Dodd brought. But I also think too, part of it is looking at where the future is going to be. As a young person, I can tell you, homeownership isn't what it used to be. A lot of my generation doesn't necessarily want to do the yard work. They don't want to do the snow blowing. They don't want to do the leaf raking. They're looking more for maybe condos or apartments. So that's a big part of that too. And so I know that with COVID throwing everything in terms of a virtual work from home, things like that, that we can lure in some people who work in Madison part-time, but maybe want something a little cheaper than downtown Madison. So I think that we can lure those people in as well, especially if they're a little bit more outdoors oriented and they want to be a little closer to their cabins. So I do want to add more owner-occupied housing to the city, since we do have a lot of renters, but there's some uncertainty with some of the recent tariffs and whatnot too. So I will work with developers, I'll work with anyone who wants to address this to come up with all this possible solutions to this.
Thank you. This will be our last question for the evening. We're getting close to the 7 o'clock hour, and then after that we will do our closing statements so that everybody is aware. So Mr. Fiene, this one goes back to you. What is your greatest strength that you will bring to Portage if you're elected as mayor?
The biggest asset that I believe I can bring to this community is a fresh perspective and fresh ideas. I'm only 29, so I'm not bound by outdated policies or practices that we did 20 years ago. As far as I'm concerned, seeing children right now, like COVID changed the game on everything. It changed how we view hybrid work. It changed how we live. Okay, so I have a fresh, on-the-ground perspective. My opponent has had decades of experience, but we cannot ignore the fact that many of the problems that the city faces today are not only different from the ones the city faced previously, but also are partially a result of decisions made by past administrations. I understand the pressing issues facing families and younger generations because I am part of that generation. I might not have decades of experience, but what I'm seeing what's happening right now. I'm in the middle of everything right now, and so I'm not watching from the sidelines. And that's part of the reason I got involved with the city council for the first place, is I want to make a positive difference in the lives of everybody in our community. We need a mayor who can bring fresh perspective and fresh ideas to our city, because our city is facing significant challenges right now, and we need to have new innovation and new ideas to thrive.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. This will go back to you. I'll repeat the question for you. What is your greatest strength you will bring to Portage if elected as mayor?
Well, I believe my greatest strength is my extensive experience and my ability to listen attentively to ideas and creative problem solving and meticulous analysis of the facts. I also pose a strong understanding and commitment to Portage's ordinances and the state laws, ensuring that we adhere strictly to these regulations and avoid any violations. There really is nothing part-time about the mayor position. When asked, I've always answered, it's a part-time position with a full-time commitment. Having worked full-time when I was first elected, I can tell you that I didn't do either one of those jobs justice. So I do think that being retired is going to be a strength also that helps me move Portage forward, and I just want to make Portage the best place to live, work, and play.
Thank you. So again, this concludes the question and answer portion of the forum. Thank you to our candidates for answering the questions and sharing your thoughts. So we're now going to move into our closing statements. Again, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their final remarks, and we will begin with Mr. Fiene and then followed by Mr. Dodd. So Mr. Fiene, you have the floor.
I just want to thank everyone for coming today and listening to my ideas and giving me a shot. I really hope that I gave all of you guys some things to consider today. Do we want to try something new, or do we want to go back to what has previously happened, and do we think that was successful, right? So I hope I gave you guys some things to consider. I do believe that we do need new ideas and we need to innovate, because if we're not innovating, we're getting further and further behind. So we face new challenges, especially as the result of inflation and shakeups in planning for a variety of reasons. And so we need a fresh set of eyes to deal with these problems. I plan on being around long-term 30 years from now, and I want to tell my future children that I did everything that I could to ensure that their life will be better than mine, because I believe that's what it's all about. So if you're ready to try something new, if you're ready for a fresh set of eyes on new problems, then I ask for your vote next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd.
Yeah, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Portage Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event, and for all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this. In all my previous positions, I never had any personal agendas, and I don't have any now. As an older person, if I ever thought I had a conflict of interest, I would recuse myself immediately. and there was no question about it. I always erred on the side of caution, and I will continue to do so, as I would have all elected officials and department heads do. I personally don't think that new ideas are generationalized. I think they don't come from any one set of generations. I think everyone within this community, when they put their mind to it, can come up with new ideas and new ways to move this city forward. And by listening to those people, it's the best way that we got to move this city forward. So again, thank you for your attendance and support by voting, by 8 p.m. on October 1st. Thank you.
Can I say April 1st? If you vote in October, that's gonna be way too late.
Sorry, April 1st.
I know he meant April 1st.
Yep,
right?
April 1st.
So this now concludes our mayoral forum for the evening. We want to extend a thank you again to both our candidates, Mr. Dodd and Mr. Fiene, for taking their time. I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to share your vision and your priorities for Portage, but also I appreciate your willingness to step forward and want to serve our community. So we thank you for doing that. Thanks to all of you for attending tonight, and to those again watching through our digital channels as we get that posted. Thanks to all of you. Civic engagement is really a vital part of making a strong and informed community for us, and as you've heard tonight from these candidates, this election is an important opportunity to shape the future of Portage and what we will see moving forward. So I encourage you, everyone, to make your voice heard by voting in the upcoming election on Tuesday, April 1st, and your vote is our opportunity to help guide the leadership of the city moving forward. So thanks again to the candidates. Have a great evening, everyone.